Have you ever sat down to study? Opened your textbook? Read the same sentence 3 times? And somehow learned absolutely nothing? You tell yourself you're studying. But in reality? You're trapped inside your own head. You're thinking about whether you're using the right study method. Whether you should start with Chapter 3 or Chapter 4. Whether you understand the material enough. Whether you'll remember any of this tomorrow. And before you know it, an hour has passed. Your notes look neat. Your desk looks organized. But your brain is exhausted. Not because you studied. Because you overthought. And here's the scary part. Most students don't fail because they are lazy. They fail because they spend more time thinking about studying than actually studying. Today, I'm going to show you 3 proven tactics that stop overthinking instantly and help you get into deep focus faster. And the third tactic is so simple that most people ignore it completely. Even though it can cut your overthinking in half almost immediately. Let's begin.
Most people think motivation creates action. But psychology shows the opposite is often true. Action creates motivation. The biggest mistake students make is believing they need to feel ready before they start. So they wait. They prepare. They plan. They optimize. They watch productivity videos. They create color-coded schedules. And they never actually begin. Why? Because the brain hates uncertainty. The moment you think about studying for 3 hours, your brain sees a huge mountain. And huge mountains feel dangerous. So it delays. That's where overthinking begins. But top-performing students use a different approach. They don't tell themselves, I'm going to study for 3 hours. They tell themselves, I'm going to study for 2 minutes. That's it. 2 minutes. Because your brain doesn't resist small actions. Think about it. Opening a textbook is easy. Reading 1 page is easy. Answering 1 question is easy. And once you start, something interesting happens. The resistance disappears. Momentum takes over. This is called the activation effect. The hardest part of studying isn't studying. It's starting. So the next time you catch yourself overthinking, don't focus on finishing. Focus on beginning. Make the goal ridiculously small. Because small actions destroy big excuses. Here's a question. How many times have you thought, I'm probably not smart enough for this? Or, what if I fail this exam? Or, I don't think I'm making progress. The problem? Your brain treats thoughts like facts. Even when they are completely made up. Imagine someone studying math. They get 1 difficult problem wrong. Immediately their brain says, you are terrible at math. But what's the evidence? 1 question. That's it. Yet they believe the story. And then they spend the next 20 minutes worrying instead of learning. This happens everywhere. Overthinking is often just imagination pretending to be reality. The solution? Demand evidence. Every time your brain makes a negative claim, challenge it. Ask, what proof do I have? Not feelings. Not assumptions. Proof. If your brain says, you're behind everyone else, ask, how do I know that? If your brain says, you're going to fail, ask, what evidence supports that? Most of the time, you'll realize the thought isn't based on facts. It's based on fear. And fear loses power when examined closely. High achievers don't believe every thought they have. They question it. They investigate it. They separate reality from emotion. And that's exactly what stops mental spirals before they grow. Now here's the tactic almost nobody talks about. Most students try to eliminate overthinking completely. That's impossible. Your brain is designed to think. The biggest lie students believe is that overthinking means they care. It doesn't. Overthinking feels productive, but it rarely produces results. The students who improve the fastest aren't always the smartest. They're the ones who spend less time trapped in their heads and more time taking action. Remember these 3 tactics. Lower the starting point. Replace thinking with evidence. Create a thinking boundary. Simple. Practical. Proven. And if you actually use them, you'll notice something surprising. Studying becomes easier. Not because the work changed, but because you finally stopped fighting yourself. The next time you sit down to study and your brain starts creating doubts, don't listen immediately. Take the first small step. Look for evidence. And keep moving. Because success in school isn't about having perfect thoughts. It's about taking action despite imperfect thoughts. And that's exactly what separates students who stay stuck from students who move forward. The goal isn't stopping thoughts. The goal is controlling when they happen. Imagine you're studying. Halfway through a chapter, the thought appears. What if this study strategy isn't effective? Then another thought. Maybe I should switch methods. Then another. Maybe I should watch a video explaining this. And suddenly, you're no longer studying. You're debating. This is where a thinking boundary becomes powerful. A thinking boundary is simple. You schedule a specific time to think about your studying. Not during the study session. After it. For example, you study for 45 minutes. Then spend 5 minutes reviewing. That's when you ask questions. That's when you evaluate. That's when you reflect. But during the study block, no analysis. No optimization. No debating. Just execution. Because here's the truth. Most overthinking happens when thinking and doing happen at the same time. Imagine trying to drive a car while constantly stopping to analyze every movement. You'd never get anywhere. Studying works the same way. When it's time to study, study. When it's time to think, think. Separate the two, and your focus improves dramatically.